Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us from wherever you are. If you want to say in the comments, let us know where you're watching from today. It's always fun to see everyone around the world joining, whether you're getting a coffee or a glass of wine. We're happy to have you here. So if it is your first community call, we're just going to go through some quick logistics. So we are streaming live to YouTube and to LinkedIn right now, and Twitter as well, from both our work company account, and I believe Solomon's account should be streaming right now. So if you're not seeing from that, welcome to the Dagger community call. And then we also have a Discord general channel that you can go to and add comments. So if you're having an issue commenting at all from any of the other platforms we're streaming to, please feel free to go to our Discord and put your questions there. We're going to watch live and make sure to answer anything from there. And as questions come in from any of the demos, once the time is right, based on the demo, then we will answer the questions live. And if you aren't already in our Discord, this is a shameless plug to join it, because we have tons of conversations like the ones we're going to have today, but also, about anything, or if you need help with Dagger, that is a place to go. We always have the whole team in there to support, but we also have tons of amazing community members that support you too. And if you're watching this and you would love to submit a topic and present at one of our community calls, please just DM me on Discord. It's super simple. Miranda Carter is the handle, and I'll be happy to get you on the agenda. And then just a quick reminder on events coming up. We have one of our community members who's going to be speaking at 2 additional events in Portugal. So if you're watching from Portugal or near there, definitely try to check out some of those events, because we'll have a community member who's very active joining us at those. And then we also have no community call in 2 weeks. So these are every 2 weeks if it's the first one you're joining. So we won't have one actually on October 3rd, because we're going to be at our Dagger retreat, planning also a bunch of awesome stuff for all of you and working super hard to get a bunch of fun things out. So we'll miss you that week, but we'll definitely give you a quick recap on our following one, I believe October 17th. And now to the agenda. So we're going to have Jeremy join us today. He was at Paloomy Up yesterday, which was awesome. And so he's going to kind of do a recap of that and also show off a demo of how to use Dagger and Paloomy together to kind of show how you can actually use these and focus on using real code. And then Solomon's going to do a recap with .13, and we're going to kind of do a ad hoc recap here. So we'll have a few people from our team join, and we'll kind of talk through those changes and answer any questions live that some of you may have. So let's get started. I'm going to pull Jeremy on the screen. I'm going to pull a few other folks too. There we go. Solomon, Sam, Justin are joining us today. And then I'm going to add your screen, Jeremy. Go for it.
Okay. Thanks so much, Miranda. Hey, everybody. And so I've got some great folks here on the stage. Some of them I've seen the mute buttons kind of like go back and forth. So who knows? Anything could happen. It could be like we could hear from people or not. But please, yeah, unmute yourselves. Let's
I'm here. Waiting to be blown away.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So so for folks that didn't see the Paloomy Up presentation yesterday, you can go replay it. But this is way more exciting because it's interactive, and we can take your questions while it's happening. But what I'll do is I'll start out with just giving you a sense of what I showed at the presentation, and we can dig into the Dagger tech behind everything. I did a prezo to start with, and I'm not going to do the whole prezo here now. But in essence, the prezo was about why you should use real code versus relying on YAML for your CI/CD. And I think a lot of us who are here are probably true believers in that, but there might still be some skeptics around. And so what I'll do is kind of get I'll actually get some of the folks that have joined me today to see, do you agree with that premise that CI should be real code? Solomon, what's your take?
I'm still on the fence. I think if you had arguments to help convince me, that would be nice.
Okay. All right. So he's not quite sure. And we're going to try and get him over the line. Would you agree, Solomon, that your pipelines are kind of your software factory?
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it.
Interesting. Okay, excellent. Yeah, today people are building, everyone's building software and everyone has pipelines. And this is how you get the changes that you're making in your software out to be value to your customers, to your organization. And we're all working on all kinds of pipelines. We've got, of course, CI pipelines, CI/CD pipelines, but increasingly we're seeing more and more types of pipelines. So we're seeing, certainly data pipelines, machine learning pipelines, AI pipelines, and we're also seeing people that kind of specialize on the infrastructure as code provisioning type side. So we're going to kind of touch on some of the place where infrastructure as code and CI/CD overlap today in the demo. But yeah, these things are your factory, and they start out really simple. Maybe in the early days, you've got like a very simple, maybe a little bit of YAML that describes your build and your test process, and that's all you really need. Maybe you push an artifact somewhere. But what we notice is that pretty soon things start getting really more complicated, but also very different depending on whether you're the one looking after the CI system or whether you're a developer just trying to get your code shipped without errors and to move things forward. And so, maybe the platform team, they're like setting up this very particular CI system with its proprietary YAML to make things work just right, where developers are like running on with their own tools, and they're they're maybe on their Mac trying to brew install something, and they've got this make file, but someone else says, hey man, I got this new thing, let's use just files instead. Or you've got your Docker Compose, and you're trying to make stuff that is similar enough to CI so that if things are passing locally, when you push it, it's going to work in CI.
But let me stop you right there, because our custom YAML is better than everyone else's custom YAML. That argument's great for everyone else, but mine is better.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So yours is the best.
Yes. Actually, YAML. Justin and Sam here, they both just passed their YAML engineering certification. So we're certified YAML engineers.
Amazing. Wow.
Yes.
That's
nothing you say can convince us to throw away our beautiful custom YAML.
So you're really excited about this YAML. Okay. That's great.
Yes.
I mean, it may be so. It may be at the end of this presentation, people who are today writing Dagger pipelines in real code are going to convert back to YAML. I could do that. It'd be that bad of a job that I do. In fact, here's some YAML now. And this might be really appealing to you. So if it is, jump on it. But we see this a lot where at some stage, a little bit further down the road, that little baby YAML that you had that was so sweet and so cute and did everything you needed now has grown up into a monster that's really hard to wrangle, hard to understand, hard to maintain. And therefore, and forget about, could be infrastructure as code YAML too, right? And that also gets really, really hairy. So you end up in this situation where if you want to make a change, right, now the developers can't possibly have something that works exactly the same as that CI YAML on, say, their laptops. So they're really just, I'm going to make a change and maybe it'll work. And you just push that up there to Git, you pray, and, most of the time or much of the time, it may fail. And that's, it might take 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes for that failure to happen. So in terms of flow, in terms of productivity, it's not a lot of fun. So, okay. So I'm not going to go through, like I said, every single point here of the Dagger platform, but I did want to highlight was a little bit of like why it could be that, this factory that we're running right now, why we need to change things and why we maybe need to look at using code instead. So, today we've got some really great building blocks that we could be using for these pipelines instead. And we've got expressive programming languages. We've got containers. Thank you to the team that's here on the call with me today. We've got these CI servers are really, they're great workhorses. They're like, they're there, they're in place, and we should definitely use them. And we have powerful infrastructure as code tools like the Pulumi I'm going to show you here. So we've got like all these great building blocks. It's just that we don't really have a great way of orchestrating those things, especially not with bespoke YAML that's not very extensible because it was thought of as like a simple, maybe 2-3 stage CI system. We need something that can handle a lot more than that. So what's something that's good at being extensible, at being adaptable, at being composable? Well, code is really, really great for that. And here are some of the reasons that people love code. And again, I can see Justin starting to come around. I see him like putting down the YAML hammer he has in his left hand, and he's thinking about it. I'm excited to see that.
No, Justin, don't do it.
Yeah,
don't give in.
But and then additionally, if you think a little bit more about why kind of the approach that we take at Dagger is, it's not just code, but if you kind of go backwards, kind of from first principles, and think about what we're doing in a CI pipeline, is we're thinking about what are the different steps that have to happen, and what are the artifacts that are flowing through that system? What are the things that we're building and that we're shipping that are flowing through that system? And how can we actually have those things move in a predictable way, in a well-defined way? And how can we take advantage of things like caching along the way as well? And so for folks, again, who are fans of Dagger, you probably know that we use a graph. We use a DAG, a directed acyclic graph, to describe these different steps in the CI system. And you also know that we keep everything containerized, from the entire run itself to every step in that DAG. Everything is containerized so that you have that isolation, and you can run that the same on your laptop as in CI. So now you can actually have the situation where the developer can have the same result locally as they do have in CI. And now Sam is getting excited because he's like, holy mackerel, I've been trying to do that, and I just haven't been able to do that with YAML at all. He was trying to use weren't you using some system locally, Sam, to try and do that?
No, actually, I was until today, I was not writing any tests, so I don't have any CI failure. But now, I'm discovering Dagger. I'll be able to test my code, so it's great.
That's what I was afraid of. Everything was fine before.
We've opened a whole Pandora's box where Sam's going to actually test his code now.
Exactly.
Big mistake.
Yeah, big mistake. So in this talk, of course, we've got, Pulumi, it turns out, we're going to show that off in this talk. Pulumi uses infrastructure as code. And they also decided, instead of just using YAML, like a giant CloudFormation script or something like that, they decided to also meet developers where they are and give them SDKs in languages that they already know, like TypeScript, like Golang, like Python. And they also use a DAG. So they're describing the dependencies between these different resources in the cloud, for example, and they've got a DAG. So we've got this Dagger understands, kind of the overall system. It's got this description of all the things that you want to do. You can think of Dagger as being really your operating system, your DevOps operating system. And it has that global view of all the things you want to do and all the artifacts that you're moving through, that you're building, that you're shipping, etc. Well, you can also use Dagger to help to orchestrate something like Pulumi. Now, Pulumi's got its own DAG. Dagger's got its own DAG that's maybe orchestrating some Pulumi, but it's helpful now if we can get a little bit of communication between the two systems. And that's just kind of for fun. In this particular demo I'm going to show you, we're going to be using a new thing that Pulumi just released called ESC, which is their system for environments, secrets, and configuration settings. So that's the ESC. And we're going to use that as a way to kind of exchange some information across these two DAGs so that these two things can work together a little bit better. There's probably like a million ways to do this, but again, it's like a shameless chance for me to just like try these two technologies together, and Dagger made it really, really pretty easy for me to do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is check, are there questions at this point before I switch over to kind of just demo mode?
So there is a question that came in, but I'm not sure if you want to table till after the demo, but it's around how can Dagger achieve zero dependency on infrastructure as code and other methods when interacting with Google Cloud products?
Every community has maximalists.
Yes.
But I know that might go down a rabbit hole.
No. I mean, Dagger can do it all. No, well, I mean, you could, but I mean, for example, and we could get into the specifics of that, but just I think something to think about is that, as Solomon, I think you're going to say, there are maximalists. You could say, I'm going to do everything with Dagger. I'm going to write my own Google Cloud, manage every piece of infrastructure in Dagger code and, use the Google SDKs. And you could do that.
And vice versa. And someone in the audience, when you give your talk at the Pulumi conference, will think, I could do all of this with Pulumi.
100%. Yeah. So you could do that, right? And that is up to you. But I think a lot of pragmatists would say, well, there's this really good system for, Pulumi's already got the system in place for infrastructure as code. It's a little bit different in that, you're kind of thinking about state of that system, that cloud system. And there's a whole thing about maintaining that state. Whereas like Dagger, it's like a different type of
That's the biggest difference. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Pulumi Terraform, the core is about synchronizing state, right, between your local model of your infrastructure and the actual infrastructure. That's super hard to get right, and it's like a long tail it's like an endless list of bugs and improvements and its state management. Meanwhile, Dagger is one reason Dagger is so useful is that it's actually, we go out of our way to be stateless, right? Everything's cacheable. Everything is a one-way flow of data. And we can focus on managing artifacts. So I think it's artifacts versus state versus infrastructure state. It ends up being a pretty big difference. Both do DAGs, but they're very different DAGs, really.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, so why not use which tool is best for which, right? And luckily, and we're going to show here using Dagger to kind of orchestrate that whole thing, including maybe an infrastructure as code tool like Pulumi. So that's a great question, though. And please keep them coming. So what we're going to do now is switch over. You got a little bit of a context, and we're going to dive into now the Pulumi world. And if you haven't gone there, you can see I'm in the Pulumi, kind of their cloud dashboard. I've got we've got some projects in here. You've got all kinds of, you can kind of look at your stacks, which are your infrastructure as code, kind of a set of infrastructure as code configuration. And then we have this thing I was going to focus on today, which is this ESC. And so I've got an environment set up in here. And the idea of these environments is that you can have, it's kind of a cool format here. You've got some settings here. So I had some settings that I want to kind of persist. I want to have these available to both Dagger and to Pulumi. Both are going to use these settings to do some useful stuff. So I'm going to use this Pulumi kind of vault configuration store as a single source of truth for a few key settings, like my AWS region and my AWS account. And then I've got some other things here. I just left them up here so you could see them, and I'm going to get rid of them right now. These are going to be some generated pieces of data. So I'm actually going to, in the course of the Dagger pipeline, using Pulumi as well, I'm going to create a new ECR repo, right, for holding images. I'm going to actually create and publish an image, and then I'm actually going to start up an application with that image in ECS Fargate, and I'll have an URL to browse to. So what I'm going to do right now is actually get rid of this stuff, and you'll see I kind of just edit that stuff right there, and then somewhere I can actually save it. Boom. Okay. So now I've got my environment has been updated. Now that's one set of values that I can access as Pulumi config stuff. And then this is the other part that I'm going to be showing off. So I'm going to be working with my AWS account, and I'm going to be using this AWS OIDC integration that they have built in as well. And so what this allows me to do is I have a role up there in AWS, And what will happen is I can actually, with ESC, get short-lived credentials that last for an hour and essentially give me that role, whatever that role can do, I can do. And that will give me AWS credentials here that I can use to interact with AWS, to create ECR repos, to create Fargate infrastructure, to do all the things. And so this is, I think, really, really powerful. And you'll notice none of this stuff is set right now. It's not hard coded. It's going to be generated because I actually established this trust relationship between the two. So anyway, that's pretty cool. I'm going to take advantage of that. All right. So that's kind of, we'll come back to this screen and kind of check out some progress at different times during the demo. But what we're going to do now is we're going to dive in to some code. Okay, so I've got this repo here, and there's actually a set of Pulumi examples that are they're really, there's actually a huge set of these Pulumi examples, and I can show them to you here. I think it's in my source Pulumi examples. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of examples. They've got, Azure, AWS, Kubernetes, Google Cloud. So there's a ton of examples, and they've got them for different languages, Python, TypeScript, etc. And so what I did was I started out, I said, okay, well, I want to write this using our TypeScript SDK. And so I went and I found this one here. I was like, let me look at this one that is AWS TypeScript containers Docker build. So I just grabbed that as a starting point. Okay, and you can see that kind of reflected in here in the name. And then what I did was I said, well, let me just Daggerize this repo. And in fact, it might be helpful just to see what that looks like. And Docker build. Okay, so we're going to go in here and take a look. So you can see this is one that I already started Daggerizing, I guess I couldn't help myself. But what I did is I came into this repo, and all I did was I said Dagger init SDK TypeScript, and then in this case I said source Dagger to put my source code in there. Maybe today I would say .dagger. This is like an area, a very active area of discussion right now, is where when you're Daggerizing an existing project, where exactly to put your Dagger configuration for your module. But that essentially would give me a starting point into being able to start working on Daggerizing this thing. So cooking show like, here's one that I've already been working on over here. And what I did was I took the original Pulumi infrastructure as code, which is here in this index.ts file. And we can take a look at that really quick. And this is the, you can see it's TypeScript. It's a nice Pulumi example. And what they do here is they have a lot of helpers, a lot of libraries, that allow them to work with different things like all sorts of AWS stuff. They even have their own, like we're talking about the maximalist side. If you're a Pulumi maximalist, you might even do your Docker build with Pulumi. And that's, they actually did that in this example. And I'll show you how I kind of worked with that. And so what they did, they set up an ECS cluster and an AWS load balancer. And this is great. I mean, having this abstraction means I don't need to worry about, clicking around the AWS console, but I also don't need to know how to write a bunch of crazy cloud formation templates or anything like that. And then they create a repo and then, go through a bunch of dance here. Now, they also do the whole Docker build and everything right inside of here. So again, this could be a good choice for you if you have something very simple, like in that beginning stages of CI that we showed earlier. You can see what they're doing is they're essentially just doing something, finding a Docker file that's in this app directory and building it up. So when you look in there, you can see there's not a lot in there. It's not a very complex complex application they're building. And in fact, if we look at the Docker file, you see it's a really simple build. So, you know, again, if you were doing something really, really simple, maybe this would be enough. But I'm going to do something a lot more ambitious than just putting a web page in an Nginx container. But still, you know, again, getting started, it could be a good way to go. And then if you go down a little bit further, you can see that they actually take that build that they've done and then they deploy it on Fargate. And then they get out a load balancer URL. And then you can use the thing. So pretty cool. So when you're Daggerizing, a lot of times you want to start with, you know, something simple and not try and eat the whole elephant, you know, all at once. And so when I was approaching this, you know, I put all these things inside of, in this case, in the Dagger directory. And when I was approaching this, I said, well, how can I do like something simple that kind of just uses what they already have and then try and break things out and make it more modular? So if I go into the source directory here, you see this is my Dagger index.ts. And let's take a look at that. So what I decided to do here was I actually set up this, I'm going to be using the environment a lot. So the environment, if you recall from over here, this environment is called Jeremy Dagger Demo Default AWS ECS Demo. So I decided to use that here and just make that something that's available to all the functions inside of all the functions that are inside of my object here of my class. And so I've got what I did here is these are some ways I broke things out, but I'll show you how I started. Way down at the bottom here, I said, let me go ahead and just do what I'm going to call the OG, the original, this real simple one that just uses what they already had and just takes it. And so what I decided to do is to say, okay, let's just essentially Pulumi up the existing project, just the way it is, and then just get that URL back from them and go with that. So that was the idea of doing it this way, just kind of wrapping what's already there and just using it. Now, I did want to take advantage of the stuff that's in this ESC environment. Like I wanted to be able to have these AWS short-lived secrets for my credentials and things like that. And I need to do a Docker build as well. Remember, their pipeline had a Docker build in it. So I actually took a module that Matthias on our team had written for Pulumi and added some ESC capability to it so that I could say, hey, here's an environment, take this environment, open it up, and which would, in essence, give it those 1 hour credentials. And then, hey, by the way, also provision Docker with that. And for that, Solomon, I used your Docker module and I added that. So I did, yes. Oh yeah. So, you know, so what this process looked like was, let me save that right now. So let's take a look at how that looks. So kind of going up another level, going back to the project, we're going to look at the dagger.json for this project. So yes, it's a TypeScript project. You could see that I'm pulling in a Pulumi module. I've been working on it locally here. Originally, I was pulling this from Git, but I've been working on it locally. So I moved it into this local directory. I've been working on it. And I also wrote my own module for accessing configuration values for getting and setting things in ESC that we can look at as well. Spoiler alert, the more cool application I'm going to be building is going to actually be a doc site, and I'm using Lev's really great Docusource module for that. And then Michael Brown in the community has a great AWS ECR module. So I actually leverage that as well. Okay, so if we look just to kind of dig in a little bit more, if we look at this Pulumi module that we have in here, this Pulumi module is going to be one that takes care of holding on to the AWS secrets and a Pulumi token and works with those things on my behalf. So it's going to be the thing that's going to do, if you're familiar with Pulumi or Terraform or things like that, often you're doing, you're bringing something up. You're bringing up a stack. So we're going to do Pulumi up in essence. And so what this module does is it gets you a container that has Pulumi in it. It's actually got this whole really nice, container function here that gives you a base container with the Pulumi CLI. And then, as I mentioned before, I just added a really simple thing to say like, hey, if someone says they want Docker, then give them Docker. And so we just create a real simple Docker engine and just attach it to this Pulumi container as well. So that's how you're able to run stuff with Docker.
I have a question on that
Yeah.
container setup.
Yeah.
So setting up a container to run Pulumi,
Mm-hmm.
since there's state in there somewhere, was it difficult figuring out how to persist that state? And did you use cache volumes and Dagger cache volumes to mount the right directories with the right level of persistence? Was there any issue there, or was it smooth sailing?
That's a great question. And I think we should get not Pulumi. We should get Matthias on the stage to describe
Mr. Pulumi.
Yeah, Mr. Pulumi. But in my case, all the state for me happens to be all going to the Pulumi cloud.
I see. So you just pass that secret. Okay.
Exactly. I just give it the Pulumi token and it's good to go. And in my particular case, you could see that I'm actually either using, like, someone's either provided their AWS creds to me explicitly, but in my happy path, somebody is actually using ESC. They're using, and ESC is going to then take care of getting those credentials for us.
Oh, I see. ESC is like some cloud service run by Pulumi. It's a proprietary.
Exactly. So ESC that we were looking at before, the thing that does the OIDC for AWS and such, it's also in that cloud service. Exactly. So this is this is something that is relying on this Pulumi cloud service. But it was really easy for me to essentially take this basic Pulumi module and plumb in this ESC stuff. And so, okay, so then and I'll just show you essentially what I did here. If you did give it, if you are using an ESC environment, so you've got where you want to have access to those secrets and all that sort of stuff, I essentially just run ESC right here. I just put ESC in the container and I say ESC environment open. And that means in this container, suddenly it's going to have all that stuff that you saw over here. It's going to have access to all these values. It's going to have AWS credentials set as environment variables that last an hour and all of that. So as long as my Pulumi up doesn't take more than an hour, should be good to go. Okay, so all that to say, there's a lot going on in there. And then similarly in this ESC module that I wrote to interact with essentially getting and setting values inside of this Pulumi config, so I can use it as a way to like swap notes between parts of these DAGs. Here, what I did was, again, take the Pulumi token and then what I do, I just install ESC into a container so I can work with the CLI. I'm just working really simply with the CLI. And then I was doing stuff where I was essentially just getting the config from Pulumi. So just using their ESC environment get from that Pulumi config object and getting whatever key out of it that I cared about. So if I wanted to get the ECR tag, I'm getting Pulumi config.ecr tag. And Similarly, if I wanted to set a config value, I could do that as well. So this just gives me the ability, and this is the one I used before, where I want to just open a config and I want to can I get everything out of that config all at once. Okay, so again, this is like just a little bit of some little prerequisite stuff to give you a flavor for some of the pieces that I put together. And so I showed you the OG method of running things. And so to do that, then you would run that Dagger function. So you could do Dagger call OG, and let's see what that does here. And so Dagger call OG. You can see I've got some things I can pop into it there. Oh, actually, I'm in the wrong module. Let's pop up a level. There we go, into the main project. And this is going to be one where I could just like fire this up. Now, the question, for me was, I said, okay, well, this is great, but is this kind of the be all end all of what I want to be doing? Do I want to be doing this, or do I want to do a more detailed sort of a thing? Do I want to do a more detailed build? And so in my particular case, the answer was yes. And so then we'll dive in. We'll dive into what that actually looks like. So let's go into the Dagger source again, and I'll show you what I actually did. So you saw that big long Pulumi file where we had everything in there. We had ECR stuff in there. We had ECS Fargate stuff in there. We had a build going on in the middle of that. And what I did is I broke it up into pieces. So I said, let's actually have a situation where we bring up first the ECR stack. Let's just bring up, let's make sure that we've got ECR in place. And let's actually do that by getting some credentials from ESC, getting my AWS short-lived credentials, and then let's go ahead and get a Pulumi instance going, and then we'll do Pulumi up on the stack that I have, on my ECR stack. And I'm getting the ECR stack from the source code that's right in this repo. And then I actually am going to be getting the repo name from the stack. So it's just kind of like a Pulumi way of asking for values that are results. And then I store that, I set that config back in back here in Pulumi. So we'll see that actually show up here as the ECR repo. And then I actually have a build as well. So my build is I pull in Dagger site, and then I do a Docusaurus build of the production doc site. And then I actually get a new Nginx container, and I make sure it's AMD 64 in this particular case. And then I put this built docs site inside that container and have that thing ready to go. And then up here, I have a separate function that does the Fargate stuff. So this actually will run that Fargate stack. So this is orchestrating Pulumi's Fargate stack, and then it's going to get back from it the URL of the load balancer. So kind of doing a bit of orchestration. And then when you kind of look at it all put together, I have it all wrapped up in this deploy function. And so the deploy function says, hey, get some credentials from ESC, then go get the ECR tag that I want, like latest or whatever the tag I want for my image to be. Go get the region, get the account ID, and then go in here and get my ESC environment and then open it so that again get the 1 hour, start the clock on the 1 hour of credentials, and then I've got from there I've got these particular creds that I want, and then Pulumi up do the up on the ECR part, and then I use that module, the ECR module I mentioned before, to push things to ECR using the short-lived credentials I have now. And then I push the built artifact up there. So I'm going to actually do my build, get my production DocuSource site here, and I'm going to push that. And then I'm going to push it to ECR, and I'm going to get back from it the image ref. So the ref of that image, and I'm going to store that again back in ESC for later. And then I actually have the Fargate stack come up. So the reason I'm storing some of these values, like the ECR repo and the image ref and things like that, is so that I can build them up. So first I have the ECR repo. The ECR repo name is used to build up the full image ref. And then the image ref is used by this Fargate stack to actually deploy the service. And then I've got something to destroy everything, to basically go through the stacks I have and to run destroy on them all and bring all that stuff down. And I'm optionally cleaning up all the metadata as well. Okay, so a lot going on there, but it's kind of crazy, and we'll see if it even works. But we'll give it a shot. Okay, so what I'm going to do is from here, I'm just going to kick this off, and then maybe we can have some more fun discussion and questions. So I'm going to do a deploy. Okay, and so what this deploy is doing, it called that deploy function that you saw that does all kinds of stuff, including creating ECR repos, building an image, pushing it to ECR, additionally getting, the AWS Fargate stuff going, all the different things. And then we should be able to see this going in Dagger Cloud as well, which will be really, really fun. Okay, so let me try and do that really quick while we're talking. All right, so I'm going to actually go to local. Here's me doing stuff. This is my Dagger Cloud trace. You can see things moving along here. Okay, so this is me actually doing my deploy function, and my deploy function has me getting my ESC config, and I'm doing the first Pulumi up, right? So now I'm actually bringing up that first Pulumi stack, which is the ECR stack. And let's see if it keeps, you can only hope that things continue to go. There's a lot going on. We've got the network involved. We've got AWS involved. We've got fireworks behind me for some reason. We got a lot happening. So, and then kind of as we're looking at this, I'll just show folks that that if the way that I ended up breaking things up is, you'll see that I actually created these separate stack directories. So there's one for ECR, very simple, and one for Fargate. So this is where I broke things up. And if you look at the ECR index, you can see it's a very short, simple stack. So this is where I'm just saying with Dagger, Pulumi up this very simple stack, and then build your image, and then bring up this other pretty simple Fargate stack here. So it's just kind of, again, breaking things up into pieces and having space to do a much more complex build in the process. And in fact, you can see there's some of that's happening here. So let's go back really quick to Dagger Cloud. Okay, exciting. So here we get the first Pulumi up. Then we're actually pulling from Git here. So this is me pulling the Dagger repo. Awesome. That's what I was hoping we would do. And then here I'm doing the DocuSource build. Thanks, Lev, again. So this is going to actually take, so you can see like there's actually, it's doing a lot of smart stuff. Like there's cache volumes here so that we can, keep dependencies, and we can, optimize this so like the next time I do this, it'll just be faster and faster. So, it looks like in my code, it looked like a one-liner of just like, oh, build. Okay, DocuSource build doesn't look very hard. But underneath it, of course, there's a lot of other code So again, one of the beautiful things about using code is this composition thing and the abstraction. So I don't have to think about everything all at once. I can just have a very simple flow of, bring up this, build that, bring up the other one, and so forth. And we should also be seeing over here in ESC. So look, we've got these 3 config values. Whoops, let me undo that. Let's just reload this page and see if anything's changed here. Aha, so now we have an ECR repo has appeared. So this has been put there by my ESC, there we go, ESC set function that I had. So this is actually set the repo here so it can be used a little bit later on. Okay, we're going to go back, keeping up with the action here. And you can see me here. Oh, here we go. We're getting ready to do the Pulumi up of the Fargate stack down near the bottom here. Okay, so I'm excited about that. Let's go look at that from the Dagger cloud perspective. It's like watching sports or something, right? Is this what watching sports is like?
It's just that's exciting for sure.
Okay.
I was wondering, Jeremy, if you were thinking if while it's continuing to build, maybe we could move to the .13 recap and then show this off after once it's done.
100%. Yeah, I'm just, hey, I'm just happy to be here. I'm excited, but I'd love to hear some .13 updates because I definitely took advantage of some of them here.
Also, and then while it's also doing, just for clarification, you mentioned a few different modules and many functions. If someone wanted to start in just getting, working on this demo, would they go to Daggerverse and then look for your specific module, or should they be using all of them?
Well, so the cool thing is, this is what I end up using for Pulumi Up, where that's not it. That's something else. But I'm starting to use the word Daggerized more. So there we go. So Daggerized Pulumi example. So I actually have this repo. So I'm at github.com/jpadams. And you could find under my repository is this thing called Daggerized Pulumi examples. So, the cool thing about it is this is just a single Dagger module that's got everything in there already for you. And like I say, I'm updating a few things. I'm trying to make it even better. But all those other modules and things, they're already in the Dagger JSON. So you can just see them. They're right there. You don't have to do anything. It's all kind of packaged together. And so that's the idea, is that these were already pre-installed. So you can just go in and Dagger call deploy and be good to go. So, but you can of course dig in and go into all the depth that you like. Yeah, and it looks like we're just for awareness sake, we're really, really close. So we've got a cluster created, and then I'll reload this page again. ECR repo. Now we've got an image ref here has been posted up. So we know we know about the image. So kind of in the last stages here of it, getting the cluster and the load balancer and all that stuff. And again, it's always you hope that AWS is going to be kind to you and everything's going to just work out. But yeah, the hope is that here in a mere minutes, we'll be able to view the glory of the doc site. And of course, you could be pulling in any kind of pull request on the docs, or a preview version of the docs and whatever, and then publishing that. And then the next time you would run something like this, it would be faster and faster. So this kind of give you it's going to give us a view of the docs, but in a different deployment scenario. In this case, inside of ECS Fargate. But yeah, whenever you want to break away, I'll just be here.
Let's do kind of cooking show style here. We'll have that one in the oven.
Yeah, one's in the oven. It's baking.
and we do
a nice brown on it, but it's just not.
Wait, how much time do you have for the .13 update?
About 8 minutes, but I mean, of course,
okay.
If you want to hang out longer, we can hang out longer.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. So it's funny. This is a mix. I think it's a mix of people watching who are wondering what the hell is What else Dagger? And by the way, what the hell's Pulumi? Maybe those have stopped watching a while ago. But then on the other end, we have people who are already using .13 and like, yeah, we know. But yeah, Dagger engine 0.13. We released that a week ago, and we're continuing the trend of just shipping whatever Daggernauts complain the most about not having, and then moving on to the next. And the winner this time is a combo of two features. There's private modules, which kind of seems obvious. So you can, I mean, everything Jeremy just did, that's implemented as Dagger modules, right? You point Dagger at a bunch of code somewhere, and then it loads it, and you're extending the Dagger API. You got your own functions, your own types, and then you're composing pipelines dynamically out of your own building blocks, or maybe someone else's building blocks. If you're importing someone else's module, like maybe something amazing, like maybe my Docker module. So cool. But what if the module you want to use is in a private repo, and you couldn't do that? It had to be an open source repo, because we hadn't implemented the plumbing to go and get your credentials for the SDKs and the Dagger engine to go and fetch the repo with your credentials. So there's a lot of plumbing involved. I won't go into the details of why. Maybe Justin will. Although 8 minutes is not a lot of time to do that. But the short version, it was very hard. And special shout out to Guillaume, who's one of our core engineers, who's not here right now. But I mean, he was working on that for a long time, right? I remember how long.
Yeah, this has been in the pipeline for at least a month or so. Like there's Git repositories and like private Git cloning and stuff like that is notoriously difficult. If you since now it's not just supporting GitHub, you can now host your modules through GitLab and all of those, and kind of integrating with all of the kind of matrix of ways of doing it is surprisingly complicated, actually. Yeah,
and that was something we shipped in 0.12, support for loading modules from not just GitHub but any Git server. The kind of thing you would think, well, why didn't they just do that to begin with? But it turns out it's surprisingly hard to do this correctly, and this is the kind of plumbing it's hard to change later if we get it wrong, because then we'd have to break everything. So anyway, and I think the funny thing is, it's like one of those shows when the new season drops and then it's only half season. Then you're like, oh, come on. We have that for this, right? Don't we have like an extra, like the last 3 episodes are coming soon?
Yeah.
The modules. I forget what it is.
The next step is the personal access tokens. So you can clone over, you don't need to set up like an SSH key. You can just kind of use like a single token and clone it for, and do the module stuff through that. But yeah, that's the next part, and so probably a little bit down the line. But like lots of the plumbing is pretty much there because we've already got the private support now, and it's just about extending it.
But I think Guillaume's working on that, right? I think I was like, yeah, you did it. It's finally over. He's like, no. Anyway,
there's always more.
Yeah. I remember Nipuna, if you're listening, Nipuna, hello, a prolific Daggernaut who's using Dagger in a highly locked down enterprise environment. And, we said, finally, we have it. And he said, oh, yeah, that's great. I can't use it, though. Not yet. But, B for effort. Anyway, so I'm really selling it, aren't I? So that's private modules. And then the other big feature, there's only 2. So if we're 4 minutes in, we're good. 2 big features and then a long tail of other improvements. And then the other improvement is really it's a combo of 2 mini features that together make Dagger really great for mono repos. So what's the best way to summarize this? Well, if you're out there Daggerizing your project, you're creating Dagger modules with cool functions and types so you can create the perfect pipeline for your project. The bigger your repo, the more painful that was to do with Dagger. Even though it's possible, there are just little paper cuts that would just add up and make it less pleasant. One is that it was difficult to avoid uploading the entire mono repo. It was possible, but kind of a pain. So if your mono repo was really huge, then local development became painful because the way Dagger works is it every input has to be accounted for. There's no script just kind of discreetly just grabbing that one file from your file system and this environment variable. Everything's sandboxed, right? That's why it's so it works so well. These Dagger functions are completely sandboxed. If you need them to access something, you need to give it to them as an argument, and there's no exceptions. But then that means you have to upload, any local directory has to be uploaded into the engine, even if it's in the same machine, it's in the container. So you have to upload it there so it can compute the checksum, look up cache keys, etc. So like in a giant monorepo, that takes a lot of time. And now you can apply what we call pre-call filtering. So you can configure you can add a little bit of metadata in your function describing for this particular argument what to ignore. And the magic is that it's not your function doing the ignoring, because that would be too late. The engine already uploaded everything and it's giving it to your function. And now you're saying, oh, well, I don't need that. So pre-call filtering, it's before calling your function. The engine already knows, okay, this argument for this function, it already knows it needs these parts. And we use the get ignore pattern format. So, star dot whatever, you can ignore, unignore, and then it will only upload that. And the combination of that feature is coming with another feature, which we call context directory access. So you can also annotate your argument if it's a directory with a default value. You can say, okay, the caller of this function can still pass whatever directory it needs to pass. They need to pass. So if you're calling my build function and it takes a source directory argument, you can say Dagger call -- source anything. This Git repo, this local checkout, this other branch. But if you don't want to have to specify the source directory, like I don't know, just build the default, build what's in your repo already. A lot of times you're loading this module from a repo and there's an obvious default. It's the current files in the same repo that the module is in. So now you can do that. So you can say, okay, if the caller doesn't specify a specific directory, default to that directory over there in my Git repo. And that can be a directory anywhere in what we call the context. So if it's a monorepo, anywhere in the monorepo. So that allows you to actually start building a realistic project layout in a complex monorepo, and actually break up your monorepo into smaller Dagger modules, each for one component in the monorepo. And we're actually starting to apply that for our own CI. And it's really nice because you start seeing the map of your factory kind of appear, in our case, we've got the CLI, we've got the engine, which is really complicated. So it has a bunch of subcomponents. It's like 10 binaries wrapped in a container. And it also bundles the CLI. So guess what? There's a module for the CLI. There's a module for the engine. And the engine module has a dependency on the CLI module, And so you're starting to build a graph of the components of your monorepo. And now you can actually do that because it's practical and it's fast. I was going to show a tiny demo, but I don't know if we have time. Technically, that was 8 minutes.
We always have time for demos. Okay. Let me stop sharing my screen. I just want to.
And hilariously, while you were demoing, Jeremy, Justin and I were frantically debugging my environment that caused my demo to fail in weird ways. Turns out it was my local ISP's DNS. So it was not Dagger.
It's always DNS.
You want to put my screen on there? Okay, so
okay.
This is just a terminal on my machine, and let's make it bigger. It's not in any particular directory. There's no local checkout that I'm using or anything. And I'm not going to demonstrate the whole feature because that would be too much time. But there's a link in the comments. There's a blog post. There are docs. We can show examples some other time, but I'm sure we'll do a demo video. I just wanted to show one cool consequence of this feature. In addition to making Dagger better to use monorepos, it's actually it enables a really cool use of Dagger for everyone. And it's kind of similar to one cool feature of tools like Bazel and Nix, which are, they're specialized kind of next generation build systems. that have their own problems, but they both have a really cool property, which is that you can use them as a package manager, basically. So anything that has their equivalent of pipelines configured, you can just point at that, and it's a package now. And so with the context directory feature, any Dagger module is basically a directory with an API on it, and it's self-contained. It's like a little object, and if you can point at it, then you can actually interact with that directory in kind of a self-contained way. For example, you can say, give me the binary for this. So in our case, so you could do this with any recent install of Dagger. You don't need anything else installed. You can say, let me load the Dagger module at this address. So just the Dagger repo. And you can say, list functions that are available. It's a little bit of a mess right now because it's a big project. So it's going to download the repo. It's cached, obviously, because I tried it before. And there's a bunch of things we can do here. And one of them is build a dev version. So this builds a dev container of the current from main. And it builds everything. It builds the CLI. It builds that massive, complicated engine container I talked about, and it actually links them all together. And then it puts them all into kind of a ready-to-use container that I'm seeing here. So I just asked this is a pipeline that returns the container. So the CLI is like, well, here's your container. Here's some metadata about it. And it's not doing anything with it. But now I have a standard Dagger container. So I can say, okay, give me a terminal. So it's going to rerun it. We got some cacheability issues in our module. I feel like our module should be more cache, but it's not too bad considering just how massive it is. So there's a lot going on here. Anyway, here we are. I have a terminal, and I'm now running Dagger, the dev version of Dagger. So we're at 0.13.1 is the last release. And so this is a 0.13.2-dev, basically. And because it's all Dagger and that all works, I can actually call the same command again if I want. And I just could keep going.
I
don't know. So actually,
will that work?
I don't know. Let's see. Normally, it should be cached because I'm using the same engine. No, I'm not using the same engine. So it will not be cached. Wait, is it cached?
This is the dev engine inside your engine.
Right, of course.
So
yes.
this is...
So it should not be cached.
No.
Yep. But if I, let's see, there's an environment variable. Okay, I'm in a container running in Dagger that itself has a Dagger engine running inside of it, right? This is kind of a cycle. This is not really the point of the demo, but anyway. And I have a CLI that's configured with this environment variable to talk to the engine that's sitting right here in the container, right? The dev engine, that's the whole point. But it's probably going to blow up, right? If I unset this variable, it's going to talk to the underlying engine, maybe. What's going to happen, Justin? Tell me.
It's going to try and... If
I was going to try.
It's going to try and spin up a Docker container and fail.
Because of the version?
No, it's going to try and spin up a Docker container inside Docker, but Docker's not installed in here.
No, because it's going to get a session. Right? I'm going to try.
You should, yeah.
I think you were right.
I suspect it will do this forever.
Okay. But it should work. Anyway, okay, so forget my little side quest here. What I wanted to, let me demonstrate something more concrete. Actually, initially I wanted to show this. You can also build the docs. So I could build a docs from main. I can build a docs server, and that gives me a container. And it's funny because I was trying this while you were showing your pipeline, Jeremy, and I was also stuck with looking at a long Docusaurus build. Thankfully, that's cached. So that's a container that can run the docs. And so this is the funny part. I'm going to combine those two demos. I can run this container locally. So I can, if you know the container, the Dagger API, you can take a container, say, give me an abstract service, and then bring the service up on my machine. So now I'm running my docs locally. Oh, I'm only sharing my terminal. Let me see if I can do some acrobatics here. I'm going to try and share my whole screen, Miranda. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
If I see, I'll
share screen.
See, I'm going to have to update my stuff to use this new approach to get the doc site, and this is cool.
Yeah, it works great. And actually, I'll show you. Oops, wait. That's my that's me debugging my earlier error. That's me commenting. That's me looking at my, anyway, it doesn't matter. So let me just close this and go to localhost, and boom, I got the docs from main. So that's a bunch of other stuff. This is really cool for reviewing PRs because that, okay, since the module is the module is the thing, right? The module basically, as far as this, I'm concerned here, this Dagger module is the docs, right? I want the docs from this version of the module. I don't need to separately say what I had to do before, -- source. Okay, basically the same thing, right? You see what I mean? There's the code of the pipeline, and there's the data being given to the pipeline. Now they're coupled by default, which allows for this nice pattern. But to show how nice it is, let's say hypothetically, not really, there's a big pull request coming to improve our docs, and I'll show it to you. And by the way, it's going to be really cool. Our docs are going to get better. Thank you, Vikram. There's this one here. We're going to merge the manuals. You know, there's a developer manual and a user manual, and people say they're confused, so we're going to change it. Here's the PR. GitHub lets you, it gives you a ref, like a Git branch name for each PR. So and Dagger knows how to, it accepts a Git branch or tag as a version of the module. So I can say load from pull /0 this number /head. That's just a GitHub thing, and just do the same thing. And hopefully this is still cached. Yeah, there it is. So now I can try again. And now I'm notice this change because now I'm looking at that PR and I can review it right here, play around. Oh, there's a new Dagger API docs. Cool, cool. By the way, you should go check out that PR. But you can check it out with this command because this command will work for you. You can type this command right now and you'll get the same thing as me. There's no local installation of any kind. So the last part of the demo, I promise, is I wanted to combine with the previous thing, the dev environment. This part annoys me because I have the container, the docs server, and I just want to bring it up. And I open an issue saying, well, can't we have a shortcut where instead of having to convert the container to a service and then type and then call up, can I just say container up so that I can type this, right? Unfortunately, that's not available in 0.13.1, but it has been merged in main, I think yesterday. So in theory, if I could run this command somehow from the dev version, it would work, right? So let me just copy paste this command. So now I'm running my dev environment with a dev version of Dagger. All right, it's rebuilding. This is kind of a funny, weird example, but it does demonstrate this. The real side effect is that everything is just a little bit easier and simpler, and so you start just trying more stuff and doing them more quickly because why not? It's instead of 15 minutes of work, it's going to be like a minute. Okay, so now I'm in my dev version of Dagger, right? Dagger version. So that should have, I noticed earlier that that commit was merged. So let's see. Okay, so this will work, but now I just want to type docs server up, right? Docs server, oh, why is it wrapping? That docs server up. Okay, will this work? Let's find out. Oh, I guess it's not going to be cached, is it? Oh, okay. So it worked. So cool, the feature exists. And then I was like, oh, but wait, this is running inside the container, right? So how am I going to get it out? So, and then I thought, well, so now let me exit. Let me copy paste this. If you're thinking, oh no, yes. So I'm back out of my container. This is just a regular container. I just happened to type terminal, but I'm not locked into having a terminal. I can do anything I want. For example, I could run this dev environment as a service. So I could say, execute this command. It's a little convoluted, but kind of manually converting my dev environment into a little makeshift service, except what it's doing is executing this Dagger call, and then I have to expose the port, right? I don't actually know if this is going to work, but okay, expose port 80. And then as service, because we're in the, I'm calling the stable release, right? I can't yet just call up. Does this command make sense to anyone here? Justin, does this make sense to you?
I think that should
Okay, let's try.
work. Yeah.
Okay, this is all so I don't have to type as service. So of course it's I'm typing way more, so I don't have to type this one more. But you know, I'm live testing a future release of Dagger is what I'm doing. Okay, let's see. Oh, it worked. So this browser is actually connecting to a container, the Dagger dev container, modified on the fly to run a Dagger pipeline inside of it and forward the port to that, so I don't have to type as service. So that's my demo. Apply that to whatever your workflow is. In practice, it's just really fun because it just removes, like this, I would never even bother trying this before because it was just too cumbersome. I mean, we had our dev tooling and environment was fine, but I think that's kind of the standard in the industry. It works, it's fine engineering, but it took a lot of work and it's not super fun to use. You have to, like get everything set just right. So why would you go on a stupid side quest just to try something for fun? Like no one's going to do that. But now it becomes achievable because it's just, once the building block works, it's a kind of a no-brainer. So mentally as a developer, you're no longer distracted by that. You can think about the next cool thing you want to build. So that's kind of what I wanted to demo. That's the real power of this feature, I think. So that's my demo.
I love it.
I'm lost. I can't find you guys anymore. I hid the window somewhere. Oh, there you are. Okay.
We're still here. And my pie is ready to come out of the oven.
I was going to say, how's the Dagger Paloomi turkey doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. We can show the results with all the trimmings really quick. It should be fast. That was amazing. I already see things I could, do to improve this demo over here. Use context directories, use that, the docs build that's built in. I mean, so many things. I'm excited. Do I need to, I need to actually say share my screen? Is that a thing? Or no, you just have to show mine. Okay, cool. Go. All right. So yeah, cooking show like. Oh, look here's that Paloomi ESC thing. And look, wow, there's a new thing here. There's a load balancer URL has appeared. Okay, well, let's see if Dagger, here's Dagger Cloud as well. And you can see Dagger Cloud also did all the good stuff, the deploy things that we were talking about. Essentially Paloomi up ECR, push the image that we built, and then Paloomi up the ECS Fargate stack. Down here at the bottom, we also have a load balancer URL. I want this to be command clickable, feature request. And I will pop that in here. Ta-da! Here's also the Dagger docs. So very
nice.
Cool. Running that on...
Oh, that was also your... Nice.
Yeah. It's a kind of a fun thing. Running it also on ECS Fargate.
I mean, they are great docs, so why would you not?
They are really great docs. I mean, I just want to run them everywhere all the time. So, yeah, but that's it. I will... I'm glad these things dovetail so much. Like I literally can take pieces of what you just showed and just, improve the thing I was working on radically. So I'm excited to do that.
That was not even staged. Look at us. We're doing it.
It's happening.
Oh, I forgot to say in .13, there's a whole bunch of other smaller improvements. We made things faster. The TypeScript SDK in particular is faster. So I guess that makes your demo faster also.
Yep.
But not fast enough. I mean, across the board, the next thing we're looking at is just making things faster. So yeah, expect more improvements there. Not just the SDKs, but I think everything. Hopefully you'll notice the difference. That's it.
And as people are noticing the difference, or if you're running into any issues, just a reminder that if you aren't already on our Discord, we are in there all the time. The engineers in our amazing community are there to help you. So come in there, ask your questions in the help forum, or we have our general chat that people just put anything they're kind of thinking about, even if they have an idea for a POC and want to check if it makes sense, throw it in there. We'll give you some advice. So otherwise, we will see you at the next one. Just a reminder, we will not have one in 2 weeks because our whole team will be on a team retreat building amazing stuff for all of you. But we will share our next demo. I think it's October 17th, somewhere around there. So have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.